There we go. Just look like it. This way. There we go. All right. We ready? That's all, guys. Ready? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to On the Mic with Mike. It is the premier business radio program around. I'm your host, Mike King. We're coming to you live from the Fairfield in Midlothian. We're here for the 2021 Biz Summit at the Fairfield, which is a snapshot of post-COVID, what the business landscape looks like. We're coming to you live. This is Nanette Shore from Shore Financial. Nanette, welcome.
Thank you. I'm Nanette Shore with Shore Fundraising Strategies. Happy to be here today.
Nanette is one of the, she's a sponsor for this event. So the idea of it is we brought together game changers who will tell what their view of the situation is from the landscape, from a business standpoint, what it looks like from the RV business ecosystem. Really quickly, we're going to have our host, Ravi Patel, is going to come in, talk a little bit about his facilities, and we'd like to thank him for hosting. Ravi, welcome. Well, what am I saying welcome to you for? It's like welcome to the program. And
it's more of welcome to my house.
Oh, well, thank you. Okay, Ravi Patel. Here you go. There you go. Whose house? There you go.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's good to have all these superstars here, and you know, the hotel business is picking up, and so we're excited about that and what the future holds, and then the summer, and it'll be good. So.
All right, Robbie, thank you. Okay, so folks, this is on ESPN Richmond 106.1. Mike King here. Mike King here, and we're on every day, Monday to Friday. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have a panel of esteemed guests here. They're all from all walks of life. And what they're doing is they're going to talk about where they are, how they see the landscape. We're going to ask them some questions. Nanette and I are going to chime in every so often, but we want this to be a free-flowing discussion. We'll start off on the left here with Dr. Danny Gladden Green.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Danny Gladden Green. I'm the Executive Director for the Women's Business Center at Virginia Union University. We opened our doors on March 1st, and we have not stopped in supporting and receiving women entrepreneurs. Many of them have been surviving COVID, and now we're working with them to thrive after COVID.
Daniel Staffenberg, I'm the CEO of the Jewish Community Federation of Richmond. For the past 86 years, building and sustaining Jewish life in Henrico and around the world, as well as helping to integrate and build community throughout the greater Richmond area. Excited to be on the panel with some friends who we've been working over the past, feels like forever, but a year to help us all get through COVID, and looking forward to the conversation.
Okay. I'm Chef Michelle Wilson of Mom Michelle's Cafe. I'm located here in Chesterfield County. Really glad to be here amongst everyone and sharing some ideas with them.
John Vitolkis, Henrico County Manager, and here with a bunch of friends, and looking forward to the conversation that we have this morning.
Welcome, Joe Casey, County Administrator with Chesterfield County, and with my colleagues to my right. You know, we are the two public servants that try and work for all of you every day.
Good morning, I'm Leslie Haley. I am the Midlothian Board of Supervisors representative representing this area, serving on the Chesterfield Board of Supervisors. And I also serve currently as the chair of the Greater Richmond Partnership, which is a public-private partnership advancing economic development in all of Central Virginia.
Good morning, I'm Eric Terry. I'm the president of the Virginia Restaurant, Lodging, and Travel Association. I've just kind of taken a vacation over the last 12 months, but no, just kidding. As you well imagine, you know, our industries have been very, very hard hit through this pandemic, and hopefully, you know, we're beginning to see the end of that process, and you know, trying to find great employees for the industry. And so I'm looking forward to today's discussion.
Good morning, I'm Jack Berry with Richmond Region Tourism. It's a regional program of 7 jurisdictions in central Virginia. And our mission is heads and beds, filling hotels, which will fill up the restaurants and fill up the retail. As guests come, they spend the money and they leave. And as Eric said, our industry has been devastated, but Central Virginia has been holding its own quite well in the last 14 months.
Thank you all. Thank you all. So we're going to start with Dr. Casey since we're in Robbie's house and his house is in your neighborhood. Give us a quick snapshot of where Chesterfield is right now and what do you see going forward for the next, I guess, Q3 and Q4?
Sure. Again, it's been a long year for all of us. And again, it's a nice panel where you're going to hear a lot of different perspectives. As far as Chesterfield today, it is a better day than it was last week, which is a better day than last month and a better day than last year. We have to be mindful that, over 400 people in Chesterfield have passed away because of COVID over the last year. I'm proud to report we've gone a whole week now without a death in Chesterfield County. I can't say that I had the other 70 weeks or so prior to that with the same information. There are still 290 people plus in Chesterfield today who have COVID. But again, that is a much, much lower number than the 27,000 that have been accumulated over the past year. We are proud, and I know Henrico's done an amazing job as well. We are vaccinating as much as possible. And the over 60 population, which has been over 92% of our deaths, it has passed the goal of 75% being vaccinated. So protecting our elders, which again, I'm approaching that age faster than I had hoped for. But having said that, that's the population that has been most at risk. And again, to their credit, they've been the most vaccinated thus far. Doesn't mean we're done with that. We're going to talk probably longer at some point in time. What's in front of us right now is an unemployment rate that's probably twice as high as what we would normally want. And we all have to figure out what to do to get these people back to work, back to a job that was their prior job, or train them for a new job that's in the industry, because the jobs, and we have over 5,000 jobs advertised, at least in Chesterfield County. And if I have over, a 4.6% unemployment rate, we just have to figure out how to be the matchmaker. And hopefully with the intel and the partnerships, some around the table, we're going to do that. Thank you.
Leslie, we'll keep it in Chesterfield. Madam, the floor is yours. What does it look like to you from your vantage point?
Well, thank you. I have to say I'm really proud of some of the work we've done in Chesterfield, and part of this comes from our partnership that exists with our chamber and with our small business community. And we've always been very committed to understanding that small business is the core of Chesterfield, and recognizing that we're not only creating relationships there, but we took opportunities in this last year to make certain we set up grant programs. We worked with economic development. We reached out to each entity and each group and said, how can we support you? How can we help? How can we connect you with resources? Here's some monetary resources, but also how do we connect you with folks that can give you the opportunity to fill vacancies, to make certain that you've got opportunities to open onto sidewalks, to open into parking lots, to expand your venues for restaurants and things. And so, we've been very boots on the ground. I'm really, really proud of not just what the board leadership, but our county administration leadership has done to make sure those relationships continue, that engagement continues, and that to the extent that we could turn, some of the stimulus monies we've received back into the community to continue to support those folks. And I think it's been, really rewarding to see the relationships and to see that support. Now, we know there still has been significant impact, but we've done, the same thing when it comes to reaching to our citizens. So I think that's been a critical piece of us all standing together and feeling united.
All right, we'd like to thank you for that. We're going to go over to now business owner in Chesterfield County, Mama Michelle's Cafe, which is one of my favorites. It's my favorite. This is straight up a shameless plug. Chef Michelle Wilson is here talking about surviving the pandemic and also what's staring at her and other restaurateurs. And we're going to go to Eric Terry because he's the man with the numbers about talking, I guess, from a bigger picture. But Chef, give us an idea where you guys are, where you are from your business and how you survive. Plus, you got some big things. You got some big things on tap.
Yes, all right, well, thank you, Mike, for shameless plug. Right now, where we stand, we're grateful that we survived 2020 and came through that. We had challenges then, our challenges now are slightly different. We are faced with, not being able to find qualified people to come. They're not coming out to, apply for jobs, and that's been a challenge. The customer base is there, in my case, but we don't have the employees to support it. And so I'm here to hopefully gain some knowledge as to how to move from that space into a space where we can compete with larger businesses, restaurants, chain restaurants that are offering bonuses and sign-in bonuses that some of the smaller micro businesses may not be able to compete with, and how we maintain our stride and get back open. Right now, I'm open at half capacity and hours because we don't have the staff to accommodate. And so I'm here to gain some knowledge and to offer up, some of the things that we're challenged by out here. It definitely is a problem.
Thank you, Michelle. Eric, you want to add anything to that?
Well, talking about the jobs, piece, we lost 100,000 jobs in the hospitality and travel and the restaurant industry last year. That's a huge number when you think about, the fifth largest industry in the state of Virginia. We lost that much. On a bigger scale, our tourism industry in Virginia was a $28 billion industry in 2019. We lost $10 billion in impact in 2020. That's a big number. And how do you recover from that? What do you do? The employment crisis that we're facing right now, I think is a complex issue. Certainly the enhanced unemployment is one of the things that's causing that, but it's all other things. It's, available childcare, it's, schools and virtual schooling, and how do you get your kids, out of the house and into school where they can come back to work. But it's a pretty complex issue, and vaccinations being another piece of that. And I applaud, Henrico and Chesterfield and Richmond, all who have done a great job at, kind of moving us ahead of, in most part, the rest of the state. We kind of led the state in terms of vaccinations, and I think that's one of the reasons that we're seeing, people coming back into restaurants, Michelle. That people want to go out, they want to, sort of venture out. Going back to the employment, we just partnered with Gov't Virginia, Chesterfield, Henrico, City of Richmond, and Hanover on a training program and a jobs board that we're launching, to get people back into the industry, because there is a little bit of hesitancy. We've been telling people for about 12 months that restaurants are unsafe, and hotels and other things, and people aren't traveling. They're not going. Now they're traveling. If they can get gas this weekend, they're going to be traveling. I feel like the locusts are coming next. But I think this is, those are all sort of temporary things, and we are seeing a real rebound in people coming out and wanting to travel. Here in Richmond, we've got a great, youth sports program that are generating business on the weekends, and that spins over to a lot of different areas. But the important thing is, we've got to rebuild the confidence of people in, wanting to come back to work in the industry. And I think that'll happen. It'll probably just be a little bit slower than all of us would like to see. And with great support here, by the counties and the city, I think, we're in a good path. Richmond Region Tourism, to my left, Jack and his team have built an amazing organization to support tourism in Virginia, and so I often point to them as the standard by which all other convention and visitors bureaus and DMOs should be judged, because they did a phenomenal job at looking at the entire market. So thank you, Jack.
And Jack, you want to add anything to that in the same field?
Thank you, Ed, for those great comments. It's the product that we have is so great. Just, of course, the travel and tourism industry has been devastated worldwide, but in Central Virginia, we've held our own. Last April 2020 was the basement for all travel. But let me just tell you what happened this week. Because we have just not skipped a beat. Well, in February, Travel and Leisure magazine came out with the top 50 destinations to visit for the summer of 2021, and we were in the top 30. This week, Condé Nast, which is a travel Bible, came out with the top 12 cities in the world to visit in June, and Richmond's in the top. There are only 12 listed, we're in those 12. And then also on the international scale, this past weekend, another regional program cooperation is the Greater Richmond Convention Center. We hosted the USA Fencing Championships, which fed into the Tokyo Olympics for the Olympic team for the USA. 4 competitors, they came from all over the country to compete in Richmond this weekend. And the airport was crowded with these, they look like golf bags, but it's the foils. They had them all over downtown. Even that, how it impacted was, hotel rates went up to $700 this past weekend. We have 18,000 hotel rooms in the Richmond region, and weekend business, as Eric had mentioned with sports tourism, every weekend, all 18,000 are practically sold out. It's the business traveler that we see emerging I know you want to talk about the third and fourth quarter of this year, and what's critical for our industry is the business traveler as it relates to restaurants, as it relates to hotels and air travel.
John, Henrico's open for business. That's what you guys are out there singing the praises of. And we see it. You guys have wins that keep coming down the pipe. Let's talk a little bit about business in Henrico. And then we're going to go over to our nonprofit friends because we got to show them some love. You know, they're a big part. We got Danny. We got the 2 Dannys. We got Danny Staffenberg and Dr. Danny from Women's Business Resource Center. But first, we're going to go to Henrico and shout out to your folks over at EDA for the great
Yeah,
work.
so I wanna call out Anthony Romanello as again our EDA director.
That's how you're here.
That's right.
He served you up. He
He
said,
did.
Mike, you could have me, but you could have the big man. And I'm like, all right, well, thanks. And here you are.
So here's the thing. I mean, it's not a very complicated formula in Henrico. It's all about low taxes, quality services. We have the road infrastructure. We have great schools, but you know, Eric and Jack are absolutely right. And Joe, this next step, this next level going forward, it really is about psychology. And so, you know, I think we have created in this region a place that does not exist in many places in the world. So everything that is happening with sports tourism, all of these lists that Jack Berry talks about, I mean, that needs to be celebrated. It needs to be told over and over and over again, because it is ultimately the consumer is I don't need to tell a bunch of business people, driven by psychology. So going forward, you know, we've been living in, you know, some folks have been in a cave maybe for the past year, and you want to go out and you're going to need to live. I mean, that is a real human. And so I think we have an ability to capitalize on, you mentioned the hotels, the restaurants, but also the businesses. We understand that, you know, some of the office is going to change, but you're seeing some of these localities, Henrico, Chesterfield, take very unique approaches. One approach that we've taken in Henrico is a development called Green City, where we are looking at what is called a eco district. So it's the largest one east of the Mississippi, and basically all of these businesses are making carbon pledges, making commitments to the environment, and this is going to be a development that is basically has a zero net carbon effect on the planet, and oh, by the way, it's got a 17,000 seat arena in it as well. So all of that, and we are making significant investments as far as sports tourism. All of that ties to business. It's about place, psychology, creating partnerships, working with everyone. And where else can you go on the East Coast where you can have a group of business folks, business leaders constantly going from place to place to place and having great conversations as opposed to government being at the throat of business. And I just think we have something exceptional here in RVA.
One of the things, and I think when I spoke with Jack before, sometimes people think that there's a competition between Henrico and Chesterfield. And if I don't get the business, but you guys collaborate a lot of times, it's about business coming to the region.
So let me let Leslie Haley She's the chair of the GRP.
And so I think it's really, you're exactly spot on. So the four regions, the city, Chesterfield, Henrico, and Hanover collaboratively participate in the Greater Richmond Partnership, along with all of our private industries, and huge support. And the whole idea is that we are collectively attracting economic development and to the region. And then, whatever fits that business model the best is where, sort of that locality will pick up. But we recognize we all benefit. We all have a mutual benefit when there is new economic development, new business interest in the region. And so, we recognize that we each, all of us have different fabulous amenities. We have different attributes we bring. We have different opportunities depending on even the time and place, when that happens. And so the idea though is to let folks understand that Central Virginia has such great opportunities when it comes to even places to live and families to settle, that, new economic development, new businesses looking at. Once we get them here, we kind of let them see what seems to fit their path the best and let our local economic development directors take it from there. We don't get competitive over that. We just know a win is a win for the entire region.
Thank you for that. So we're going to switch over to, as I said, our nonprofit friends. Danny Staffenberg, the Jewish Community Federation. Let's talk a little bit about quality of life and your organization. And then we're going to, I guess, dig into what makes the area so special. But we're going to talk, after we're going to talk to Dr. Danny Gladden Green with a new organization, the Women's Business Resource Center at Virginia Union, because business is the lifeblood of the economy, and they're out there helping women business owners. But Danny, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. It's an honor to be on the panel. And as I was listening, it was clear to me that COVID has given us some real challenges, but it's also given us some gifts. And one of those gifts is to begin thinking differently and trying some different things. And as I'm going through the panel and hearing is, we can talk about business, we can talk about economy, tourism, etc. But the great gift that I learned over the past year is that the public nonprofit, the government nonprofit partnership is one that can really drive some pretty amazing things. And for the Jewish Community Federation, while Jewish is our first name, community is our second, we are very interested in helping out and being a big part of what's going on in this special place. And two things that I would say is, as we're looking at, as I'm hearing about the challenges of hiring, of finding strong employees, finding a way, and maybe this is a challenge for us to take forward, to connect the nonprofits who are out there in some areas feeding, supporting, and sustaining people who have lost jobs, and maybe we need some help in retraining them to put them into place, and or just making the job board available. We have an unbelievable partnership with the Jewish Family Service, JFS of Richmond, which is supporting all kinds of members in the community. How do we get them and help them be a driver and think differently to just the paper or the traditional Indeed or whatever, and say, okay, here's a way we can do some good and go from there. The second part is that I think I'm speaking on behalf of the nonprofit communities. I guess we get to do it today. We're ready and able to be a support in a number of ways. I think back to, I'm looking at my friend John here, a Tuesday, a month and a half, 2 months ago, we had been helping out in getting volunteers for the vaccination sites. Tuesday at 5 o'clock, I get a phone call saying, we got an issue. We have, 1,000 vaccines and nobody's arms to put them in. What do you think you can do? And within about 4 hours, my amazing team, our volunteers, whatever, had hundreds and hundreds of volunteers.
So this is something I want to pipe in on and just commend you for. This partnership was absolutely incredible. Daniel coming in and not only helping us get vaccine to individuals, but also helping us with a community call center and volunteers. And so this is what, no blueprint, right? It was just, you just got busy.
The beauty of so many nonprofits, and I'm sure for the Women's Business Center and United Way and all of them, we do actually have a blueprint because we're there every day. We may be not so flashy, but we're there every day, and we sustain that through annual campaigns and giving. So for those that are out there, when you get that call, sometimes annoying or sometimes the letter, that $10 results in the work that is going on here.
I'll just add also back to getting people vaccinated. Just yesterday, someone called me to thank me for calling them 2 months ago to potentially get their vaccine, but recognize the power of the community coming together, the county, the organization, and really took the time just yesterday to make that call because they saw that. They saw there was a benefit to our community in working together. And it meant a lot to me and to this person that they made the call.
Yeah. So the idea, I think, Mike, you challenged us to think about what's next after COVID. And I think the biggest thing is it's time to start thinking differently about how special this place is, but how we can work together to move that forward. And I know Danny and I just met a minute ago, but we've already got some ideas percolating of how we can work together.
Definitely. I mean, that's really what you do when there's a crisis, right? Skills and capabilities and talents that exist over time begin to manifest in such a way that you're able to capitalize on, in my area, underserved or underrepresented individuals. The Women's Business Center really focuses on, particularly at this time, us coming about during COVID, a lot of individuals who have been displaced for whatever reason, their side hustle has turned into their primary source of revenue. But oftentimes they know what they're skilled at doing, but they may not have the business acumen, the other tools in their toolkit to be able to be successful. And so our goal is not just to see people get into business, but to also help them develop a sustainable model for their revenue, for their employees, the ability to be able to get their message out, to demonstrate their distinctiveness and their differentiation. And so even, like I said, there have been businesses that have been launched during this time. I think Paula may have launched her business. She's a business center client. We have other clients who have really looked at expanding. And so about 50% of those who have come through our doors, and what I mean is virtual doors, everybody's not 2 shots up like I am, but those who have come through our doors, 50% of them are aspiring and they are starting their business. And we work with them to establish whether or not they're going to be a nonprofit or for-profit. We help them through the whole process of corporate structuring, their business plan, all of that. We also work, because we're partially funded by the Small Business Administration, we also work to help them complete their PPP loans, their EIDL loans, things of that nature, making them aware of the resources. As I was talking to Daniel about 25% of women entrepreneurs ever seek funding outside of their own bank account. And we need to close that gap, because this is a time where we have come through a very rough period, but we want them to not just survive, but to thrive. And so we have a number of webinar opportunities, we do coaching, we do counseling, but the goal is really to tool them. Another 25-30% of those individuals that we serve are experienced business people, and they've had a rough time. So we're looking to make sure that they become more stable and have an outlook that's not just going back to where they were pre-COVID, but they emerge with acceleration. And then that remaining 10 or 20% are experienced individuals. We're helping people to find ways of funding their economic asset attainment. They want to buy the building they were in. They're taking advantage of opportunities that have been afforded to them. So that's what we're really about. Our services are free. And that's because, as Daniel said, we have support from our community, large corporations, foundations, and grants to be able to lower the barrier to strengthening your business, because we're not just trying to survive, we're trying to thrive.
Thank you. And as we're starting to talk about moving forward, and it seems to be the direction, I'm curious, what have we learned, what have each of you learned in the last year that really changes the trajectory of where you're going in the future? What might not be different going forward had we not been through this? You can start.
Well, the biggest lesson I think I started with, first of all, we're all designed with greatness in mind. And so when, crises hit, you start to find out at the very core, whether it's a business, you start to focus on what you're excellent at. And you hone that and you capitalize on that. The distractions and the fray fall away, and you find what your core strength is. I think as individuals and as communities, I think that's what I've learned personally, and that's what I see and work to inject into those individuals that I have an opportunity to coach.
For me, it's been the strength of togetherness, the strength of our community is that, is the ability that, one, even when we had the physical closeness and togetherness ripped away, I saw all throughout Richmond opportunities for people to come together, to connect, to support each other, multi-faith, multi-ethnic, all kinds of different ways that kept saying, hey, we are better when we're working together, and we need each other to move this forward.
I would say that I learned we have a lot of guts, and that we do, and tenacity. And I think that when we peeled everything away and saw exactly what was going on, we immediately connected and got together. That's what I have found. And I hope that continues while we go through all the different ins and outs of what, because we have a different situation now than we had at the top of 2020. The fallout from what happened then, and it's rolling down. And so we just have to stay focused and keep our individual businesses open. Because like you said, the one thing we discovered, I have a business. It's not a hobby. And so I'm like, ooh. And so yeah, I know, right? So that I have to work it. And I haven't stopped. One of the things that
There we go. Okay, we don't keep secrets here.
No,
Go ahead, drop it right now, please.
Friends. But I've been working closely with a streaming channel out in California, Taste on TV, who has assigned themselves to Apple TV and
Roku
and
over the top.
over the top, yes. And so I've worked with them and been partnering with them, and they decided to celebrate their year anniversary here in Richmond. And so I'm really, really excited about that.
Okay, so you know what that means? Eric Terry, Jack Berry,
I'm going to be talking to you
Dr.
guys.
Casey. These are people coming in that has an international feel as well as a national presence of people bringing restaurateurs, talent to Richmond because they see what you guys are talking about, and it's going to be all driven through Chef Michelle Wilson here. Okay, we got to move on. See, this is a radio show, and I'm looking at the clock here. Sorry. As I said, yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Mike, let me comment on what was said earlier. We just finished administering. DoorDash gave us $450,000 to give away to restaurants, and we took over 700 applications in for that. And I personally had a chance to look at those applications. What surprised me, and going back to the women's program that you've got, is the number of businesses, small businesses, who had not received a nickel in this last. We look at it and we say, oh, we're giving out all this money, we're doing all these kind of things, but many of them don't have a banking relationship, they don't have the support necessarily for that. And as we looked at those applications, it really hit home with me that we've got to do a really much better job of trying to identify how to help those small businesses that really don't know how to do it, or there may be language barriers in some cases, or there may be just cultural barriers that we've got to figure out how to help that kind of business survive, because it's important. They're creating jobs. They're a fabric of our community. Someone like Michelle's restaurant is a part of the community, and so when we started giving these awards out, and they weren't large, they were $3,500 a piece, but these people were saying, hey, I'm going to build a new patio, or I'm going to go buy a new piece of equipment so I can start doing this or that. And so I think as money starts coming in from the government, which is particularly generous, I do think it's important to make sure we identify those small businesses that need help and how to help them. Many of them don't want to ask. Many of them, I was surprised when we got these 700 applications, but they were asking, they were comfortable, and they share their stories, which I got to tell you, put a tear to your eye when you look at some of these stories of how much they had struggled over the last 12 months.
Thank you. John?
So going back to your question about lessons learned, I think for us, coming from the governmental sector, Henrico has 4,000 employees. And one thing government does is follow rules well, right? And so in this case, we had to get our employees to basically break rules or break a paradigm that suggested, this is what we have to do. We have to ask this agency for this and this. You remember Henrico, we had a nursing home. We have more nursing homes in Henrico than anywhere else in the state. So we had one nursing home where a number of people got sick, started dying, and the advice coming from above, CDC, health, was basically, you don't have to test these people. And what did we do? We broke the rules. We got in there. We started testing people. We pissed off a bunch of people. But ultimately, that led to mass testing at Virginia Center Commons, and then this mass vaccination site. It also required our employees, you're not a librarian today, you're taking calls. And you had to have you had to have the employees to do it, which we do, and I know Chesterfield does as well. But the biggest takeaway has been to basically get in that sphere that businesses know well, which is you've got to deal with it, right? And so government is really not equipped for that. It turns very slowly. And I'm really proud of the work that our employees did to turn quickly.
Kudos to you, John.
Yeah.
It's refreshing to hear that. Thank you.
Okay, really, so we're gonna go down to Dr. Casey. And then we're gonna go, Dr. Casey, give us an idea of something, I guess, an achievement that you're proud of. And we're gonna go across to you guys here, but we're gonna end up, because we're running out of time. I wanna touch on these people who've been on the program know that I always ask, what gives you hope? So an achievement, and then what gives you hope?
I think the achievements actually go together. I think, again, we have about 4,000 employees, and when COVID started, I basically said, put your job descriptions to the side. We're here to be public servants. You need to hear people, you need to see people, you need to listen, you need to feel it. And even if you're far from them, doesn't mean you can't have the feelings and sensations of what is needed by the community and the voices. And it's not the loud voices you need to listen to, you also need to hear the quiet voices. And I think we've come a long way realizing that a job description is what you're hired for, but to be a public servant is a passion and a commitment and a show of faith. I do think that you can't do it alone. And I think the power of local government, no offense to the state or federal government, they are not on the front lines. The hardest things that the federal government and state government needed to get done, they got done by local government, working with local volunteer networks, nonprofits, communities. Even John and Jane Doe, who just said, what can I do to help? And we gave them something to do, whether it's something simply as checking in at a vaccination station, whether it's just helping a shut-in elderly parent whose children may have been in another state and were prevented from seeing their parent, but they were alone. We went over and cut their grass. We brought them food. Those are the voices that, again, had support networks that were shattered. You had addiction recovery programs that are very dependent upon people being in peer counseling groups. And we had to figure out in 1 week how these people could talk to each other, because if not, they would fall prey to their addiction. All of those things, again, gave me achievement and hope. And what we need to do is learn from all of those lessons and what has worked, keep that as option, B, if you will, for the foreseeable future. Because if that's what's worked to the customer, however they want to meet, however they want to be served, 24/7 in some cases, that's how we're going to do it. And again, there's nothing more that gives you hope than seeing a firefighter or a police officer respond to a 911 call, knowing that the person that they're going to be in very close contact with has COVID, but if you saw them, you would not even know they had COVID. They did their job and they served that person and that family well. That's what I'm most proud of.
Thank you. Leslie?
Well, and I have to say, I think that following up on what Dr. Casey just said, I think it's really given us an opportunity to see deeper into our communities. I think when everything was, early in 2020 and we were in such a robust place and everything was going really smooth and people were cranking along, we didn't realize that there were still folks behind the scenes that had needs. And we're really suffering in their own ways, whether they be mental health issues or whether they be addiction issues or family breakdown issues. you know, and some of the things that were going on. You know, what this has done is made everybody sort of look behind the scenes and ask the questions. And I think that's a good thing. I think some of those questions needed to be asked, and they need to be asked at a federal level, at a state level, you know, about what's happening and what those services look like. And I'm really proud of, again, the ability of local government probably being the best and the easiest adaptable to say, that's what our role is, to serve our citizens' needs and to just really recognize that those needs shifted, and we can shift in a model much quickly.
Okay, so we're gonna ask an attorney and a politician, what gives you hope?
What really gives me hope right now is the resilience that we're seeing out there and the service model you're seeing at this table. Everybody coming together, recognizing that right now, you know, and I've had an opportunity to do a little traveling around the state. Central Virginia is so incredibly strong. When you see everybody at this table, none of us are doing this alone. None of us think we can do this alone. We're all coming together, recognizing it takes every single piece of us in serving the citizens' needs and in listening, the really incredibly important piece of listening. Because if you're not listening, you can't really understand what's going on out there. And I really have hope. I think there's a silver lining to this pandemic, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that we just could not continue on that level and forgetting folks that were behind the scenes and their needs weren't really being identified.
Thank you. Eric?
You know, I can't say enough about the Central Virginia, you know, local government folks. You know, we started off having calls about twice a week with economic development and the whole team around, and quite frankly, that was one of the most phenomenal things that I think happened. And you know, opportunities on that call were presented, and we took action on them, and we really came together. And I will tell you, that's not indicative of the whole state. We have areas of the state that really struggle. We, you know, and you know, we're in a unique position here, I think, in the Richmond area, with universities, you know, Virginia State, DUU, and you know, University of Richmond. All those really came together, I think, you know, to help in this regard. And you know, I don't see that in other parts of the state necessarily, and I think that says a lot about the leaders on this group and throughout the region of, you know, figuring out that it's the whole. You know, you can't just draw the line and say, no, that's not my, you know, that's not my jurisdiction. That's not, you know, in my area. And, you know, you can see how much more effective that was than other places that have struggled a little more with this, you know, and I think that's, you know, right now, that's the thing that really gets me excited about, you know, Central Virginia and Richmond area is that I think we're poised to be, you know, look at some of the latest economic development announcements. I mean, people are coming here. They want to be here. And that is going to continue to grow Richmond as a destination for little years, not just visitors, but people who want to live here. And that really works together.
Jack? I saw you smiling. Now,
He stole my speech.
I was ready to say, the man stole your thunder.
So
Jack and I work together a lot.
So he saw his material, so it's a partnership.
we're tourism guys, but what really was amazing was the economic development background. Where this thing hit back in April, the 4 economic development leads with Anthony, Garrett, Linwood, and Leonard from all the 4 jurisdictions got together with the RLTA, with us, with the Fed, with the nonprofits. There were 45 of us that got together. It was 3 times a week. It was Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And they said, we have got to help the businesses. They put together survival kits of masks. You couldn't find masks. You couldn't find hand sanitizers. The chamber, Brian Anderson, was right up front on the front line of this. I mean, I shouldn't mention names because there are 45 of us. But at the end of the day, what it showed, it was about saving business and saving people. It was community. And so what I learned greatly is the passion that these economic development assets had. And going fast forward, where are we today? Well, the funny thing is all 4 jurisdictions have more economic development leads than ever before. Their offices are just killing it. What Eric was saying is that, you know, business is good. All of the jurisdictions are having a wonderful year, and it's just because of all of that great energy. So just in saying it's a great place to live, work, play, and visit.
There you go. Dr. Dan, what gives you hope out there?
Well, actually, just being here, I don't know if I can say anything that would crystallize it any more than the collaboration of community, inclusion, right? So diversity is what you can see, but inclusion is what you feel. And I believe that this type of collaboration coming out of this pandemic is going to make our region more fierce than ever. You know, faith plus favor makes you fearless, and that's what I think is happening.
I can take that. I
Well,
never heard that.
That's me. That's me.
Okay, wait a second. Could you run that back? Could you run that back to the people in the back? Okay. All right, gang. Follow that. You gotta follow that.
Yeah, I can, I want to make bumper stickers here. For me, there's a bunch of words that have come out: resilience, community, but the one that I think drove us over the past bit and gives me hope for the future is generosity. Not just of resources, not just of dollars, but of spirit, of time. We had innumerable people throughout our places show up and say, what can I do to help? And that is what actually builds the community and strengthens it. It allows people to help their small businesses, but also drive all those big businesses, which are huge influences on all of us as nonprofits, but within the economy as well. So generosity is the one that I would take.
Well, I'd like to thank you guys for coming. We're gonna wrap up with Chef Michelle and,
The last one.
well, you know I gotta end because we gotta give a shout out to our hometown, okay? Philadelphia, shout out to all the folks from Philly.
Nice place, but it's no Richmond.
I know.
It is no Richmond. That's why I'm here.
That's why I'm here.
Okay, Chef, could you end, give us a ray of hope, or something to send us out of here?
Well, everything is Dr. Davidson, everything. And this has been very energizing for me. We have no idea what we need to hear because we're in our own little world trying to survive and keep our doors open. So this has been fantastic, Mike. I've enjoyed meeting everybody on the panel. This type of thing gives us hope to go out there and scrap it up another day, keep our doors open. The generosity that is felt, the camaraderie that is felt is ever present. And so I'm grateful and hopeful for that.
On the mic with Mike here in the next shore. We are here coming to you from the Fairfield. We'd like to thank the Patels for hosting us today. I'd like to thank the great folks on the panel. You can catch this program, ESPN Richmond, on the mic with Mike, 5 to 7 a.m. That's where we are. We're the best business radio program around. We have another segment of this because we got some other rock stars who are going to talk about their view of Richmond and the metro area. So on the mic with Mike, we'd like to thank you guys. Shout out to the next shore. Thank you. Appreciate that. Sponsoring this awesome event. We'll be back on the other side on the mic with Mike, the best business radio program around. And with that, we're out. Thanks now. Hey, can we get a picture real quick before you guys are running? Man, can you get one? Come on.
Let's get
Ready? Everybody ready? Normally, one row.
All right, let's try to get our.
Okay. Come on over here. We gotta give you an hour talk. It's on. Okay.
That's the first time I've ever heard
That's
that.
exactly. I know where I stand.
You get between them credit.
I mean, I don't understand, but.
All right, ready? 1, 2, and 3. See? Good. Nobody close their eyes.
All right, appreciate it. Everybody, thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
We're gonna put you in touch with Chef and talk about how we're all
You get insurance, how much? You like to do
And we'd love to just collab and talk about how we can maybe come together and oh, right. And we're still fairly new nonprofit, so we're just out here helping companies, but they need help and support. Right now, we're only got a 5-woman show, so right now, but we would love to collab. How we can help one another.
Some of my clients are like a half a woman, so they're our own person.
That's
So all positive and great. I've got a long history of business and a nonprofit, and I'm putting the two together to help nonprofits find their way and be better.
Sure, I'd love it, and we would definitely need that. Today was great just to even see how everything was moving around and how everyone has their input. I didn't know how much decisions that we had when it comes to COVID and everything.
Particular area, even more than the state. I feel this was awesome. So I'm so glad you said
I'm so happy. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it does.
I thought that.